Good morning and welcome to the Millionaire Mindset Book Club. Today's Thursday, the 28th, of September. Got like 95 days left. Good morning, Jacqueline. Good to see you. My faithful attendee, right? So it's good to see you this morning. So we're on chapter 8, Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. How to elicit someone's strategy. Remember, Millionaire Mindset Book Club, one chapter a day, Monday through Thursday. So today's the last day for the week. In the past, we've managed to cover 12 to 13 books a year in the past. I'm really excited about being back. This is a relaunch of the book club in this new format on Zoom and YouTube, and hopefully it will continue to evolve. It was real easy. I said at the beginning of the year, beginning of 2023, that I was going to switch to a podcast format, right? So I stopped doing it. I was doing it on Facebook, and now here it is, September, the end of September, and I'm just now getting back to it. So remember, what's easy to do is easy not to do. And so I'm just going to continue on. I'm excited too to announce the launch of the new Texas Realtors Leadership Book Club that is going to be once a quarter. The first meeting of that group will be in December. I think it's going to be December 4th, and we're going to be doing John Maxwell's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And so if you're interested in the Texas Realtors Leadership Book Club, just let me know, and I'll try to make sure that we get that information out to you. So How to Elicit Someone's Strategy by Tony Robbins. So what do we mean, elicit somebody's strategy? How do we figure out how they are doing what they're doing, right? He starts out by asking, have you ever seen a locksmith work? It looks like magic. They play with a lock. They hear things that you don't hear. They see things that you don't see. They feel things that you don't feel, and then click, the lock opens. These master communicators work in the same way, right? And you can figure out somebody's mental syntax, right? Their recipe. You can open the combination to the vault of their mind by thinking like a master locksmith, right? You have to look for things that you weren't looking for before, look for things you weren't seeing before, I guess, listen for things you weren't hearing before, and ask the questions that you didn't know. Ask the questions that you didn't know to ask before, right? And so the key to eliciting somebody's strategy is knowing that people will tell you everything that you need to know about their strategies, right? They will tell you in words. They will tell you in the way they use their body. They will tell you in the way that they use their eyes, right? And you can learn to read a person as skillfully as you can learn to read a map or a book. I got to tell you, it takes practice, right? It just takes practice. First of all, you got to learn what the different cues are, but then you have to practice, watching people to identify those cues, right? So what do you look for? Well, we need to know what kind of a learner people are, what kind of a neurology they have, right? Whether they are visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, right? Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic touch. What do they use? People are a combination of all three, but they primarily work one way or another, right? In the same way that some people are right-handed or left-handed, people tend to favor one mode over others, right? So how do we figure out what people's representational systems are? Well, people that are visual, right, tend to see the world primarily in pictures. they tap into that visual part of their brain, and because they're thinking in pictures, they tend to speak quickly, talk quickly. They don't care exactly how they get it out, just so that they get it out. They're just trying to put words to the pictures. They tend to speak in visual metaphors. They talk about how things look to them, what patterns they see emerging, whether things look bright or dark. If people are more auditory, they tend to be more selective about the words that they use. They may speak slower, more slowly, more rhythmically, more measured. Words mean a lot to them, and so they're careful about what they say. And they might tend to say things like, "That sounds right to me," or "I hear what you're saying." Something along those lines, right? Versus somebody who thinks in pictures. And then people who are kinesthetic may be even slower than people who are auditory. They primarily react to feelings. Kinesthetic people use metaphors from the physical world. They're grasping for something concrete. They talk about things being heavy or intense. They need to get in touch with things. They might say things like, "I'm reaching for an answer." That sounds kind of weird to me. I don't know that I've ever heard somebody say it that way. "I'm reaching for an answer, but I haven't got a hold on it yet. I haven't wrapped my mind around it." I use that one sometimes. It's hard to wrap your mind around something. But I think I'm probably more auditory than anything else. Everybody has elements of all three modes, but most people have one system that dominates, right? So, and if it's important for you to realize it, how they act, because when you communicate with them, you want to communicate with them in the style or the mode that is most resonant to them, right? Because they're going to communicate, they're going to connect better. If you're dealing with a visually oriented person, you think about a high D. You don't want to come up to them and talk real slow, and because they're just going to make them crazy, right? You've got to speak up so your message matches the way that their mind works, right? And so by watching people and listening to what they say, you can get an idea of what systems they are using. And NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, utilizes even more specific indicators of what's going on in somebody's mind. So in this chapter, if you've got the physical book, right, on page 128, 129, it got some picture, has some pictures, some drawings about the way that people will show you how they communicate, right? How they communicate. And so on page 128, in order to get, if you ask somebody to remember something, right? If you ask somebody to remember something, an event that happened in the past, the odds are, right? The odds are, and this is not perfect. It's not a perfect science, but the odds are your eyes would, and you may not be able to see this on camera, your eyes would go up and to the left, right? Up and to the left, up and to your left. So if you're looking at them, it would look like up and to the right. But up and to the left, because they are retrieving these pictures, these pictures from their mind, right? If you ask them to picture something, picture this. In the book, he uses Mickey Mouse as an example. How would Mickey Mouse look with a beard, right? And when someone is trying to create an image in their mind, then their eyes may go up and to the right, right? Up and to the right. Just by looking at people's eyes, it's possible to know what sensory system they are accessing, right? So by reading their eyes, you can read their strategies. And remember, a strategy is a sequence of internal representations that allows somebody to accomplish a task, right? So it could kind of tell you how somebody is doing something. So on page 129, they've got the pictures right up, and if you are a visual person, right, you'd be up and to the left. If you're an auditory person, you may just be to the side, right? If you're a kinesthetic person, you may look down while you're thinking about your feelings, right? You may look down. And so in order to ask people questions that would cause them to give you the clues, right? You might ask somebody, how many windows are there in your house, right? Because now they're going to be thinking about, so up and to the left, right? What's the first thing you see when you wake up in the morning? If you want to know about constructed pictures, right? It says you would ask them, how would you look if you had 3 eyes? Imagine a policeman with a lion's head and a rabbit's tail, right? And then auditory questions would be, what's the first thing you said today? What's the first thing someone said to you today? As people represent this information internally, they move their eyes, and even though it might be a slight movement, it says in a normally organized right-handed person, the following holds true. And again, it's not a perfect science, but I can't really tell you, other than to tell you to look at the chart. Here it looks like aliens' heads, right, to me. But eye movements can allow you to know how a person is internally representing his external world, right? So again, practice. This is a chapter that I don't have a lot of stuff underlined in. I told you that when there's no conversation, when it's just me talking to you about that, I'm telling you the things that stood out to me in the chapter. Again, this is just something that you have to practice, and maybe you have a different way, right? Maybe you have a different way of figuring out how people do things, right? And if so, would love to hear it, right? I'd love to hear it. On page 136, he has like a checklist of how to elicit somebody's strategy, right? Just by asking questions. How can you remember a time when you were totally excited, totally bummed out, totally whatever? Can you remember a specific time? So do you remember a time when you were in the zone, right? Completely in the zone. Can you remember a specific time when you were, in this state, right? So now you want to say, well, go back to that time and experience it, right? Go back to that time and experience it. Get them to recall what it felt like, what it sounded like, what it smelled like, right? And anyway, he's got the whole checklist here. You can go through those questions. Once you know that the syntax of that strategy, then you need to find out his different submodalities, right? This is nothing that is done overnight. This all takes practice. And whether you're trying to figure out somebody else or yourself, right? Think about for yourself. This whole thing has been about if we're successful, we were in a certain mode and we were in a certain state when we were successful, and it's about, okay, how do I get back into that, right? How do I get back into that? With unlimited power, he's talking about, okay, how do I borrow that? How do I copy it? How do I rip off and deploy those states from somebody else who is successful? Okay, this is a difficult chapter to discuss, but give it a shot. I'd like to know your thoughts. I'd really like to know your thoughts on it. Is reading people something that's easy for you to do? I think a lot of times we do it subconsciously, right? That we read how people are, subconsciously, and we don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how they are being successful, right? Or what it is they're doing to be successful. So again, tough chapter. It's good you got a long weekend, right? You got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Read through this a couple of times, look at the different eye movements and practice it, right? Practice it. Talk to somebody, ask questions, do this with your family, right? Sometimes when I talk about practice, and like you're practicing a listing presentation or something, I tell practice with your family, practice with your dog. It probably will not do you any good to try to practice, try to ask your dog to remember something and see where the eyes go, right? Probably won't work out. So anyway, that's all we got for today. Millionaire Mindset Book Club. If you know somebody else that is that could benefit from this, please ask them to, or invite them to join Millionaire Mindset Book Club on Facebook. And again, these recordings are going on to YouTube, and then I'm posting them on Facebook and LinkedIn as well, so you can go back and watch those recordings. And Yadira, it's good to see you this morning, and Jacqueline, good to see you as well. And if you've got comments, leave them on the Facebook page or leave them on the YouTube video. As always, like and share and all that good stuff, right? Makes me feel good, right, to see that people are watching. Right? It really, I'm trying to just get this information out there. If people use it, they use it. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Have a wonderful weekend. If you're working, work hard. If you're playing, play hard, and be safe and continue to read. And we will see you all Monday, 5:45, Millionaire Mindset Book Club. Bye-bye.